Today on Sounding Off, we're going to have one of the greatest composers and improvisers alive. It's Turkish pianist AYDIN ESEN coming to us live from Switzerland. That's coming up next. Okay, everybody, I'd like to welcome our second guest on Sounding Off, who's one of my oldest and dearest friends. This is AYDIN ESEN, who is from Turkey via Switzerland. And he's here with us to answer questions, demonstrate, and do whatever he wants to do here. AYDIN, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Great seeing you.
I hate to be so formal, AYDIN. We've been friends for 35 years or however many years, but you know.
So good. Oh,
Anyway,
good.
so
Great seeing you.
so we were just kind of talking for a second about what I should talk to you about. I thought of a few questions. So I made this mini documentary about you a couple weeks ago, and I juxtaposed things from 30 years ago to today. You know, some of the things have remained the same about your playing, like your melodicism has always been. You've always been an incredibly melodic player, no matter how dissonant the things that you play are. It's always super melodic. So that has never changed, but yet your harmonic language has always changed from week to week. And I always say this thing, I'd never play the same thing again. We met back in 1984, and when I listened to your playing from recordings back then all the way through when I listen to things that you're doing now, tell me how your harmonic language, your melodic language, and your whole concept of music has changed over the years.
I could say not much, but at the same time, so much has changed that I mean, it's almost like it changes. Used to change daily, and then we know the day work. When you get a little more serious, it takes a week. And then you get a little more serious, that means it takes another 2 months, whatever you're thinking of. I realized that I went through, I don't know, that feeling wise, that I went through 3, 4 periods. And that I watched myself and laughed hard. Because, you know what I mean? It's like, we cannot stand ourselves usually after recordings and whatever, everybody knows that. But again, I watched I'm usually always in distance. I mean, I know you're like that too. I mean, just check this person. I mean, because I don't want to see us trying too hard because we already have a lot of jokers. I mean, we were in a comfortable situation since we were kids, but I never made a big deal about how much comfort that I had before we met or after. I mean, after, yes, I cared because we got grown up, took harmony seriously, almost checked about everybody, every French person or Italian person, German person that we know. We met them, the great teachers, but even Karl-Heinz Stockhausen students was coming to my house in New York just to study with me after Stockhausen lessons, and I was questioning myself already, but they weren't questioning much. They were just questioning how we were able to do that kind of thing. So I was kind of shy. They weren't because they knew why they were coming to New York,
Right.
just to see that other level of the contemporary music thing we were all in love with and we grew up with it. Not only jazz. So it's just like I learned almost from people what we should be really thinking about because serious students know what they really want. They may not know everything today, but they kind of, when they come to you, they know what they want to get out of you. So even I studied that person who's me, but I always kept a distance. I guess never settled on one way.
One
So
genre or anything of
yeah,
playing.
it's not about getting better really. It's about doing the work right. Everybody can get better.
Okay, so you never ever practiced.
We did practice. I say we because I'm several different people in a way because practicing side of me, lazy side of me, watching over or getting crazy, getting angry side of me because I look at myself as a different person. I need to see certain things done. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
I kind of always kept playing. It's not about touring a lot because we never really toured a lot. But getting on the road and sharing the knowledge or sharing it with good people always affects you. That you can go to a next level comfortably. And I've studied much more. Of course, got involved with a lot of orchestral pieces, but I have my electronic ensemble in my head since I was a kid. So I didn't really mess with orchestras that much just to hear those sounds back because we heard them in our heads and then with our setups, because we love sounds for their sounds, not just like, I have to come up with the 87 people or 198 people. The business part of it kind of tires you,
Yes.
but I study always. I'm a really learner as we speak. Every day I come here to Switzerland just to share certain things with my master class here, and really advanced that I pick people, 9 people, and I share the things with them really serious, and they understand in a way. And so that means there's another way of studying that I really get down with that, stuff that I love as a listener, not as a player, because I'm the first audience. I always look at myself as an audience and checks everything out, like yourself, the rock, all the guitars and keyboards and trumpet players. We're lucky in a way that, we're listeners. I learned to appreciate when I was a little kid lots of different styles, and of course that we have to know what to do when. And that's the thing that we're more interested. I know yourself too. Get into a lot of different situations and trying to get out what is necessary from it. Not that what I like,
Well, one of the important things that I've stressed when I on my channel is that there's no difference between jazz and classical music. In that
Exactly.
it's
Great to
it's
hear this.
I've never
Exactly.
seen a distinction between the two, other than there's idiomatic things that happen in jazz. You voice chords differently. Most
There you
jazz
go.
players do, but
Exactly.
really
Yeah.
the theory is the same, and depending on on what you're playing, you can incorporate all these different concepts in it. You can bring all
Complete.
these classical concepts of jazz and vice versa. Because
Yeah.
in classical music, people don't talk about modes of the melodic minor scale in the same way.
That's right.
And jazz players use that. There's a whole harmonic language based around that, or the harmonic minor scale, or all these different scales.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
um, when I talk to a classical composer and they talk about the octatonic scale, the diminished scale, I mean, jazz players, when they, you just think of,
You said that octatonic. Remember those days when it first came out? Stravinsky was dealing with it. It was like a big deal, and they're living in New York and trying to explore that stuff. But I thought they didn't take enough time to really explore it to put down the right notes. I'm
right.
sorry, but we've taken centuries to really settle that in a way. We live short, but I think we live for centuries. Like we took so much time to really correct the right note, right place. They just went for the scale. You're right. It was a
Yes.
new thing then. And when Cole Porter was around doing stuff, or Gershwin was around, Stravinsky was dealing with this octatonic scale in a way. Remember,
Yeah.
minor third, major third together, there's not really sounding that good if you cannot handle it greatly, in a
Okay,
great way.
so explain how, as an improviser, when you're using the diminished scale, or demonstrate when you're thinking about the diminished scale, how the sounds from the diminished scale versus, how a jazz player or an improviser, how you think when you're talking about
The
diminished
scale is
sounds.
very rich. Richness comes from the notes that it is played, the half of, half of. It's beautiful. I mean, it's got minors in it, it's got majors in it. It's got, I don't know, it's got all kinds of movies that in Star Wars, it just to, I don't know, just for instance, I mean, even, I don't know, a lot of great composers dealt with it. I think in a almost kind of small way that we really extended it. I mean, it's like, let's say, one A major over C, for instance. It's it does diminish scale in a way, but diminished are usually the way they're played in the world. It's in the like a regular way, but people don't realize that there is another diminish on top of it. So it's like it's a little extra work for any composer or any musician just to understand that in every step of the way, in C, there is this, I don't know, C minor kind of, or diminished, or is C major in it too. So that means, but they made a big deal about this major third and minor third a lot, I thought.
Right.
So it was for us, remember, because we were dealing with really dark and large sounds when we were in our 20s. So, but when they were in their 20s, they didn't come up with combined heavy large scale works on them. That surprised me. So just to have a great name as a composer is not cutting it for me, it's just all this historically great people. I mean, they didn't know what to delete, really. That's what I used to think when I was younger. Deletions for us is everything.
Right.
We love deleting a whole bunch of stuff with one punch,
Yeah.
and otherwise it could be somebody's lifetime thing. But we're a little bit like that. We grew up on that stuff. But again, diminish or major, a simple major, and can sound like, I don't know, or simple minor. Let's even take A minor. But the A minor sounds great when you play a major triad on top of it, for instance. So it's like G over A is the best A minor. Why not? Because, there is a little mystery in it. That in the seventh degree, there is a major triad, right?
Yeah.
That, the regular A minor is so sweet and beautiful, but the sweetness is a little bit gone. Or we try to give a different perspective when we play, because we're the audience too. Audience wants more. When the audience wants something different, and then you're that audience in the first place, and you have to give them somehow the best. The best for you is the best, but for her, may not the best.
Right.
But I think best is still the best if it's the best thing. But that's the thing that I used to believe in. That we gotta find that region, that whenever we play, whatever we play has to be really nice, relax, and really mean something to mathematicians or our fathers, mothers, our children. They need to feel something. I'm sharing this knowledge, as you do, with my children a lot since they were kids these days, and
Yeah.
they're really becoming great musicians. And they hear the magic in it without me saying stuff. So, which is, is incredible. That means our work is, still, I mean, it's there. We work towards something nice, something good that they hear before we talk sometimes. The niceness of it. Otherwise, it's basic F major or the done a lot. Everybody played F major, everybody played the diminished scales, but it's still, I would say that there is a lot of room for improvement for the youngsters.
Okay, so Aiden, if you were to talk about A minor, for example, and show us an example of different colors of A minor.
Again, one A minor means to me still, I never worked schematically like the old masters did after the 20th century school, beautiful people, the Berg, we loved. Berg stayed on the more Mahlerian way, maybe didn't go schematically like Schoenberg did, but they were struggling people. But again, even or Anton Weber made everything look simple, but his work said a lot of stuff. And then after his passing away, we went back to the chaotic music that I don't know, in France and Italy they were uproaring about the simpleness of it or something like that. They didn't get the depth of it, or for instance, let's cut it short. A minor's got every note basically. A minor doesn't mean just A minor. If you talk about A minor, I mean, I don't know, Dorian, we know we've got the 13th there. If we talk about the A minor, natural minor, we got the flat 13 there. But I always used both of them together. It's almost like, a good A minor or a bad A minor still could be this. I mean, hold on a second. Why is it A minor? Well, we don't really have to call it A minor. It is A minor family. They're all in there. It's almost like you have a friend, next door friend, knocking your door and just coming in and you're serving him something that is, let's call him a stranger in a way. So this is like your stranger neighbor coming in and just adding something nice to your A minor, or let's make it more human in a way, like maybe like that. Now what happened? One side says it's the old world, one side says it's today. Let's listen to it again. Uh, they're all little. So our A minor could go like this. So we have the flat 13 and regular 13, natural 13, living together. Let's make it a little something else. Let's try again. Or put the 13 on down. So, or like this. So you can do left hand 13, left hand can do the usually it's like this. Right? Since 50s and 60s, Herbie Chick, everybody gone to this regular thing after Oscar or Bud Powell, whatever like that. Yeah, now you see, but they usually did it in the dominant stuff. But in A minor, we know this sounds really great in minor than dominant sometimes.
Right.
So there is a lot of shaping needs to be done here. And young or older, doesn't matter. An artist should know about this sensitive situations, you know, and they can all live together in music, in the majors. How many minors we have, or how many majors we have? Well, we got one Ionian scale, one Lydian scale. It's not really enough. And old people used to put the passing notes with the half staff down. And newer people put the passing notes from the down, up, or up and down. That means you got 4 notes there, 4 notes up scales. So you got the 4 regulars, you got the 12 tones right there. But I love to treat them as really the one family. They all share the same space. I give them the same space. So, you know, it takes getting used to it. But again, we have to grow up, really constantly grow up and open our minds and ears and grow up a little bit, just to know, invite people in. We were talking about the other day, my son Cenk did a little thing inspired by you too, probably, your movie. And then he was asking me about chromatism. And I was saying that they are like, you know, whites are inviting the blacks and blacks are inviting the whites. They live together on the piano. It's so easy. C major scale, they have got the, say, white ones. And then are all the black notes, but they live together. The way we design those waves in improvisation, as you guys know, will take some time. How to set them and settle them nicely, so it's not really hurtful. It's always musical.
Aydin, when you are playing like that and your flow, I always talk about flow. When you're flowing with ideas, just like you were, that to me is what is the greatest thing about your playing. Is just this flow that you can have.
The flow is the most important. I think it's the
Flow is
magic
everything.
word. You said it.
Speaking of flow, Aydin just demonstrated a piece, but the audio on it, because of the limitations of Skype and the density of what Aydin was playing, was really distorted. So instead, I have a piece that I just found on an old VHS cassette and transferred over. That's from a concert in 1987 with Aydin playing a couple standards. That's really unbelievable. So let's check it out.
it's yes, it's a pain in the butt, but let's say you have to have immense knowledge to be able to get in there. I mean, it's almost like knowledge and the probably flawless technique in a way that you ask this or it's ordered by higher level powers. It has to come to me like that. It's almost like I'm just in transition mode. And because it's fun game for us, like our children like certain type of games and Dylan's sounds and your children and Cenk's level of playing the sounds. My children is dealing with that too. Stay in that focus and your F major becomes something else or E minor 7 becomes something else because your good E minor is this sound. So DQ over E. DQ means you got the D, G, C at the top. Now you put the bass E minor based on it, but your good E minor is this in my book since
Right.
80s. Exactly. And now our A7 altered is this. So this guy has the major 7th in that dominant. That's a great dominant. For me, it's old, but for me, it's mine in a way. But it comes to because we need that sound to go to that G sharp major note resolves to C minor 7. So that means this person is using passing sounds, not passing notes, which is a great thing actually. I'm such a fan of this little thing. I'm trying to talk the youngsters and my children, Cenk, I know you are too. It's important the momentary sound, not just nothing like that. It's like there's passing notes in there. We're
Right.
using the passing large sounds to pass through that bridge. So it's tiring in a way. Mentally, you have to have 3, 4, 5 hearts and 5 brains to do that because they have to polyphonically, you have to separate yourself and then really go to 2, 3, 4 different directions to cope with that continuously. Because continuous is the tough word here because you have to really be on top of this, kind of giving directions to your mind and heart, and then coming back to your fingers. Fingers need to answer immediately. In a way, so it's almost like I don't believe in automation really. You know me.
Yeah.
I start from zero every time I play. So it's almost like it's a good type of a work that keeps us young, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
I like how I've always loved how you play really open lines and intervallic. You flow and you have large interval jumps and things like that that you just don't normally hear
Great point.
because they're hard to play, number one, and they're hard to hear. Can you talk about that a little bit, about intervallic playing?
It's so important for everybody, for all of us, just to be in command, just laying down interval playing because intervals mean to me. It's the whole stage. Think about the concert hall, big stage. Flute is playing the B flat and passing to contrabass with the A. Bea. So it's almost like proven in 1930s that that was possible in Kandinsky or Paul Klee or Anton Webern. They did that already 50 years before us. Let's get serious right now because they did it already. But maybe they didn't because it was their time. Intervallic jumps are so beautiful. It could be so interesting. It's only maybe piano, not orchestra, because in the orchestral writing, we do different things, and then the
Right.
whole texture is, it could be really beautiful. That's why we have electronics in the setups that it's only piano is not enough for us, not for me. I have to have some things, maybe I can touch them to make the sound more correct somewhat in my world, just to larger and softer in a way. Larger doesn't mean louder. I'm not talking about the ear-wise. You have to hear them before you play the notes.
Right.
But on the other side, a lot of great musicians don't have to hear really. I have a lot of friends, you do too. They don't hear, but they play great. I believe in the, this musical part of it, not like who this guy is really. The good sounds, we have to really think about this, jumping quietly and then, coming up with this new intervals. But let's not really leave them all naked. We have to dress them nicely. Commanding the single lines within jumps through the octaves, it takes, the command, and the command has to come to the brain, and then we need to have a need for it, the needness of it. We just don't want to do it just to do it. When it comes, it will come even better than this. It's not like for the example purposes, yes, he's trying to stay within the regions of the sounds that he picks, and then he's doing smooth jumps. So technically, on our instruments, we have to be comfortable to do the smooth jumps.
Right.
It's not about jumping like the halfway technique thing. We need to master them as any Liszt or Chopin or Beethoven. So when I play the keyboards, which I was talking with a lot of youngsters earlier, the instruments that we play on, we should keep working on them, and because it's needed.
I have another question for you. Is anything dissonant to you?
Well, that's a big thing. I made a big deal about this for a while in the 90s. I remember.
Does anything sound dissonant to you? People ask me that about me, if anything sounds dissonant to me, or with my son Dylan, if anything sounds dissonant to him. And I ask you this question.
We usually know the sweet sounds, but there is the silky filter in there. But yes, there is some music even comes from great players are not mastered correctly yet. That's what I think. That's the world that we live in, the toy world. That's because it's almost like the kids know their PlayStation so well that we cannot play with them. But we kind of know there is a way, there is a place that it's not really dissonant, but some people, by not playing it correctly, makes it dissonant.
Okay, can you talk about how combining intervals, let's say you take a minor 9 or a major 7th interval, and then you add a note in between that will take away the bite of it, and how a voicing is put together, the interval combination will take away some of the harshness and make it more beautiful or more, about how to combine sounds.
For instance, Rick, let's take a C7 chord. I'm a C7 sound. So this is like the C7 that I remember talking about it in one day in Harvard. I mean, it's almost like in the 80s that they, kind of invited me kindly to talk about some stuff. But so it's like this is the C7 sound with the major 7th on top dancing. And it's without this, I cannot really play a dominant without major 7 in it somewhere. Call it out, call it not musical, but it is musical, I think. So, there's nothing wrong about it. Or let's come up with something else. Can a minor third, we talked about the octatonic scale. Here we go, he's in it. F, A, E, an A for that, let's say. So instead of doing this, this is kind of naked for me. I mean, I heard a lot of composers tried that, but I remember in the 70s, 80s in New York, William Schumann was a great composer. One of his symphonies started like that, 7th or 8th, I don't know. William Schumann, American composer, beautiful person. He passed away. I mean, because we have to know, if they're not our close friends, they're our big brothers or maybe father's age. But I mean, I'm a fan. I know you listen to everything. To a lot of people listen to we know everybody's symphonies, because we live in it. We write it all the time. So I used to love the way he handled it a little bit. Was it better than Stravinsky? I mean, Stravinsky passed away, so this was 25 years later. Yeah, maybe a little bit better because he put clusters in it somewhere just to make it a little more fun, I guess. But this simple F major deals with the 2 major thirds, actually, and then within down bottom F, he deals with this minor part, and then minor third part. So there is something to this. This simplifies this situation that we're talking about. This makes it beautiful. It's not really bad. The way it was, the naked thirds, I didn't really like it much. It's a little bit, it's like something is missing, what? It is, I call this a not nice dissonant even. What does that mean? Not nice
Well,
dissonant.
the
Always,
spacing of it is not pleasing or something. The spacing of
but,
the intervals is not pleasing.
yeah,
But
right.
but,
It's
but
not,
just by reordering them, the spacing of the intervals really affects the emotion to these things and whether it sounds, it's discordant or not.
you're so right, because you're aware of the situations, and we were dealing with them downstairs, upstairs. You know that we really cared about these things, how we should sound like, because we had great examples, but we knew there was some more things to do, and we are doing it really. Technique is, I mean, I believe in musical technique, the polyphonic, where it's at today, the polyphonic playing, D minor, D7, 2 5 1s, all the things that you started talking about a while back. And because we love those things, we love to toy with them. I mean, what Art Tatum played, what happened in Oscar Peterson, what did Keith Jarrett do, what didn't he do? When Keith Jarrett, or I don't know, we were on the road with Miroslav Wow back in the 95, 96 somewhere with the New Weather Report. Me, Miroslav, Trilok was on it. And then someday Miroslav said, because we had some great moments, great nights. He said to me that, he sent some tapes to, Keith last week, just to, Dan, and see what he thinks about this great music that we're playing, he said. And I said, why did you do that? You know me. And he said, no, 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 he should hear these things. And this maybe could be a private story, but I think it's a real public story that he kind of answered back, what the hell is that kind of a thing? There you go. Even the great players, in the world. I mean, I know this since I was a kid from from Italy, France, Germans. The great musicians don't really hear everything. That's a big problem. And it's a big problem, and it's the core problem. Can you imagine we're talking about elementary school when you're 50? That's really dangerous almost. So I really laugh because I don't want to say I don't know anything, but we love sounds, we grew up with them, because when there was a one harmony book when we were kids, we were dealing with the French books, and I jumped to the German guy, so I want to know what he did when he wrote that book. And then the German thing, and then the Italian, and then American guy writes something. I need to know how he is talking. And then one day at the board, I'm looking at the board when we were like 17, almost finishing the first conservatoire after 15 years or whatever. I'm saying, this thing is not really looking right to me, sir. And she says, no, 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 this is completely perfect. And I says, this bar 3 and bar 5 doesn't really go to the musical areas. It seems correct in a way, but I told him we're going to erase this note and maybe put this note. And she was screaming. And even though they're all big shot people, all over the world, but I had to fight for a few things, I remember, when I was younger. And then French people, Italian people changed some rules in their books after that, years later, because I end up on it musically. When you end up on it musically, there's nothing else to talk about if you can hear it. Then I put the chiffres and all this, 7, 6 plus 4 minus third, everything. All the mathematics are in it, but musically we have to arrive at that point. There is no school on earth doing that stuff really yet. So that's why I share some of these thoughts that, you and I, we go through with our families and do stuff, and needs to be talked about.
Yes.
And then I share it with the kids, and then they are going so far fast. I love it. Like Dylan, like Jank, Icon, Randy, my wife, how much studies, what is singing, a little standard to? how you should really sing it, like Billie Holiday or like with Anderson, I don't know, with how, or Al Jarreau did whatever he can do, right?
Right.
That we love, or George Benson even. I mean, sing. I like it when a singer is a fusion singer when he sings jazz. But a jazz singer does a fusion, I like it then. So
Yeah.
that means we have to know other things to be able to do our thing right. That's how I can play jazz so fun because I'm coming all the way from fusion, you know. Breaker Brothers did some great stuff. So
Absolutely.
it's like we're talking about Mike and Randy. I mean, when they were in their teens, I mean, you listen to the few records, they were
Yes.
doing some seriously beautiful changes.
Yeah.
I mean, really, please. I mean, it's almost like without knowing those things, you're gonna have a harder time understanding us.
Yeah.
We respect a lot, but we don't want to get lost in it. So at the same time, we continue doing that. Or Weather Report, Joe. They all passed away. Joe did great stuff, Zavero. And now we're talking about a struggling musician before our time, at least 10, 20 years before Miroslav, and he's trying to hang, the Cannibal Adderley or whatever, trying to play this old piano. But in his left side of the brain or right side of the, he's thinking about some other things. Now they to put that group together and they started playing some tracks, really, right?
Yeah.
Or Blood, Sweat, and Tears or Chicago, right? They tried to do something, more valuable. There is value in it, and then there is selling value in it too. I like to think like that. Is this really a good progression? Did we sound good? I don't want to be lonely in the group. I need a great bass player. I need a great guitar player who will understand and then immediately respond. If the immediate response is not there, we're not going to have that track. That means this guy is going to have to do overdubs, study that stuff. Even though he's a great musician, he has to go study what the keyboard player played. In a way, it's not fair, but in a way, it's not fair music. That means we have to be there together, hopefully.
What are you working on now? What are you thinking about? What did you teach today, for example?
We talked about the polyphony in general, playing the changes. Could be bebop, and could be any standard tune that we love. Talked about more standards, and then the way we voice them and the voice leading, and when you play this great voicings or whatever, you have to do the voice leading and you have to come up with great melodies on top of your harmonies or inner lines. One kid said, your inner lines were singing, he said. I said, really? You heard that? So that means usually the top melody is the king, the old people used to say.
Right.
But we love the inner singing.
Not even a standard. Let's say you're just playing something that's,
Just regularly we can sing. I'll try, systematically, I didn't want to go for systems because I saw many times systems are not really working in music. There's messed up areas in, if you have the systematic thing. Yes, it's a work. It should be a mind work. But at the end, I believe in the music, the sweetness of it, or maybe sourness of it, should be hidden in there and then be shared. Not like, because that note is, wait for your turn. I don't want to say that note that every second. Hey, wait, I didn't use that A note and then I'm going to use it later. I can do that in a musical sense. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, they taught us great lessons, the old masters, especially after Debussy, and at least if we saw Debussy, 100 years older than us, exactly, right? So he dealt with this kind of stuff. I mean, he had to face the same older people saying, "What the hell is that?" In a way that, I mean, 100 years later, I had to deal with the same issues in a way. I was almost laughing in the corridor. But when you're in the school, you have to live in that school about 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years, right?
Yeah.
So it took us time to really get this thing uh, out a little bit because we love playing outside. The gigs, the concerts, serious concerts, cafe concerts, whatever. We all took them seriously. And then we wished that our friends would go there with us or vice versa. It's not really one-sided, because we love playing with great players, great drummers, because we all play drums, give them a different sense of how you should get in there because I always play drums with, Tommy or Steve or what. I mean, just because they know we have few things we can, I don't know, insert in there could be necessary at some point.
Well, I always laughed like when you first came over to my house, and I hadn't seen you in years. You sat down at my pump organ, which is a quarter step
I
sharp,
love that organ.
and
I
you
love
have
it.
perfect pitch. You have the most amazing ear. Yet things that are out of tune don't bother you. Is that
No,
because you hear microtones in Turkish music, or
that too, I grew up with them. Messed up sounds a little bit like, but they make their sense. But no, I don't mind because I'm not. I hear everything in music. So
yes,
when I'm in there in music, I don't want to name. I hate naming them. But again, for starters, for children, it's great. Later on, they'll get lost in those sounds, and then they're gonna own those sounds,
right?
and then they're gonna enjoy them much more. I almost avoid hearing it because I love the way it sounds, the way that organ sounded or out of tune piano. Yeah, last night I had played a concert. It was a little bit out of tune, but when it's really out of tune, few notes, it bothers you. That kind of out of tune, it's out of tune.
Right,
No, so we tried to get the little, hammer. We tried something, but I'm not like that. I can go along
right.
because we don't put them in the contracts that we like that kind of piano with five legs and you know what I'm saying. One lady called me, "What kind of towel? What color of towel would you like?" I said, "I don't really care." Yeah. You see, the world is going towards different directions.
Right,
Instead of really dealing with the, what kind of sounds would you like from us?
right.
Exactly. What should we play, right?
What kind of
Remember?
towel you
Yeah.
want? What kind of
Put
sounds
some
do you
Pat Metheny in the behind, please, right?
want?
But again, it's all fun, really. I mean, but music is large, and now we believe in oneness of it, like yourself too, because we shared great moments, great tracks, and so much to do still. I know, and but we're sharing it with our children, with our younger brothers, or with our we always had actually older big brothers
Older
who
big
called us
brothers.
for touring.
That's
Remember?
right.
So we still have that, and it's great just to share it. It's not about me really. I love sounds and talking about it, and then I saw the little movie that you made. I couldn't believe it. I mean, you shouldn't have done it, but I appreciate it really, Rick. And you're doing a great thing there. And then it's great for everybody. You're talking about some stuff. I'm already talking about it with my children and other people. So they connect the ideas these days with your beautiful stuff. So I go in between it and then I can get out of from what you said because we have our agendas. We can talk about stuff.
Yeah.
We can extend even today. Tomorrow will be a whole different thing. We know how fast we develop.
Yes.
So it's great just to share this fun things, you know.
Well, Aydin, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you so much. You too.
And we're going to have you back again.
Hi to everybody. Thanks very much. Ciao.
Ciao.
I'd like to once again thank Aydin for being our guest today. And remember to subscribe here to my Everything Music YouTube channel to be updated on who's coming up next on Sounding Off. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. I'm Rick Beato.